Las Vegas has always been a city of dreams, where a single pull of a slot machine can change your life forever. Over the years, countless jackpots have been hit, but only a few have made history. Wins so massive that they turned ordinary visitors into instant multi-millionaires. Today, we're counting down the 5 biggest jackpots ever won in Las Vegas. Some of these winners walked away with more money than most of us could ever imagine. And at least one of them remains a total mystery.
Stick around for number 3 on our list in particular. A crazy, inspiring story of the biggest jackpot in Vegas history at that time that sadly ended in unexpected tragedy. A story so crazy, most people would say it would be too unrealistic if they saw the same story unfold in the movie theater.
Without further ado, let's dive into the stories behind the biggest wins Sin City has ever seen.
Number 5. Antonio Esfandiari's record-breaking poker payday worth north of $20 million. When people talk about the biggest Vegas jackpots, slot machines usually dominate the conversation. But in 2012, the spotlight shifted to the poker tables, and one man, Antonio the Magician Esfandiari, walked away with the single largest payout in poker history. The stage was the World Series of Poker's inaugural Big One for One Drop, a $1 million buy-in charity tournament that drew the world's best players, billionaires, and celebrities. The stakes were absurd, 48 players, each ponying up $1 million, creating a prize pool unlike anything poker had ever seen. Esfandiari, already a respected pro, played the tournament of his life. Over 3 days, he systematically dismantled opponents with his trademark mix of charm and killer instinct. By the time he reached heads up against Sam Trickett, the crowd was on its feet. The final hand ended with Antonio's full house clinching victory, and the moment the river card hit, he collapsed to his knees in disbelief. The official prize was $18.3 million in cold hard cash, the largest single payout ever awarded in a live poker tournament. But the true value of his win went beyond that number. First, the bracelet itself was historic, a diamond-encrusted monster worth an estimated $500,000 on its own. Then came the sponsorships, endorsements, and television deals that poured in once he became the face of modern poker. By conservative estimates, his total earnings tied to that one win easily cleared $20 million. And perhaps most importantly, Antonio Esfandiari's victory made him a legend. Unlike a slot jackpot, which can vanish with a spin of the reels, his big one for one drop win permanently etched his name into poker history. Not only did Esfandiari win the kind of money that changes lives, he won the respect and immortality that only the poker world can grant. Number 4. $22.6 million at Bally's Las Vegas, 2002. On a quiet morning in May 2002, Bally's casino floor was barely stirring. The slot aisles had the soft hum of machines booting up, the clink of a few early risers feeding bills into reels. Among them was Johanna Hundal, a 74-year-old retiree from California. She wasn't in Vegas for thrills. She was in town for a religious conference of all things, and had wandered down to the casino floor for a little harmless entertainment before breakfast. According to reports, Johanna had been playing casually, almost absent-mindedly, on a Megabucks machine when she decided to switch over to a different one, a decision that would change her life. Within minutes, the symbols aligned, the screen went wild, and the machine screamed out the number that would echo across the strip: $22,618,156.67. Staff rushed over as the reality sank in. The moment was surreal. Here was a grandmotherly figure, in town for faith and fellowship, suddenly surrounded by flashing lights, casino execs, and news cameras. Johanna remained composed, calm even,
later telling reporters she had no intention of changing who she was just because of the windfall. She accepted the payout in annual installments and, according to those who followed her story, lived modestly, using the money not for glitz or mansions, but for comfort, security, and giving back to causes she cared about. To this day, her name stands as one of the most famous on the list of Vegas's luckiest people. That win cemented Bally's as the site of one of the great jackpot stories of the early 2000s, proof that even in a city built on high-stakes drama, sometimes the unlikeliest visitor walks away with a legend written in neon.
By the way, if you're loving these insane jackpot stories, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got plenty more wild Vegas tales coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. Thanks so much for your support. Let's move on to the next incredible jackpot story on our list.
Number 3, $34.9 million at the Desert Inn 2000. By January 2000, the Desert Inn was a grand old name living out its final years. The carpets still whispered Rat Pack stories, but the headlines had moved on. Then, on the night of January 26, 2000, a Las Vegas cocktail waitress named Cynthia J. Brennan, 37 years old, sat down at a megabucks machine and did something that would etch the Desert Inn into history one last time. According to reports, she decided to add an extra $6 to max the bet. The kind of tiny choice you make without thinking, the kind that means everything on a progressive slot. The reels locked, the lights detonated, and the number that froze on the screen looked like a typo. $34,995,489.56. At that moment, the richest slot jackpot ever hit. The casino floor went from background noise to a standing ovation. Guests abandoned table games. Cocktail servers and dealers leaned in, smiling like they just watched lightning branch across the ceiling. Cynthia stayed composed, almost dazed. She told reporters later that she wanted to take care of her family and maybe take them on a celebration cruise now that life had changed in an instant. What happened next turned the story from fairy tale to fragile. Weeks later, a drunk driving crash left Cynthia seriously injured and tragically took her sister's life. The headlines that had once celebrated her win now carried a harder truth. Even the biggest jackpot can't bubble wrap you from the real world. Yet through it all, Cynthia became a symbol of grace under impossible circumstances, a reminder that behind every headline number is a human being with a family, hopes, and heartbreak. Today, that $34.9 million hit stands as the Desert Inn's last great legend, a final blinding flash before the marquee went dark for good.
Number 2. Carrie Packer's $40 million Vegas win. Most jackpots in Las Vegas come from slot machines, where an ordinary person gets an extraordinary stroke of luck. But the biggest single win in Vegas history didn't come from a slot at all. It came from one man who was already one of the richest people on Earth. That man was Carrie Packer, the Australian billionaire who became legendary as the ultimate Vegas high roller. In the 1990s, at the MGM Grand, Packer sat down at the blackjack tables and started playing multiple hands at once, betting $250,000 per hand, the maximum the casino would allow. Within just a few hours, he had done the unthinkable. He won $40 million in one single run. To put that in perspective, that's more than twice what many of the biggest slot jackpots in history have paid out. One casino executive later admitted they weren't watching a gambler that night. They were watching someone dismantle the casino. And Packer wasn't just fearless. He was generous. After his win, he tipped the staff a jaw-dropping $1 million, spread between dealers, pit bosses, and cocktail waitresses. Now, on paper, $40 million makes Carrie Packer the biggest winner in Las Vegas history. But here's the catch. It doesn't quite qualify as the greatest jackpot. Unlike slot players who walk away with a life-changing fortune,
Packer was a man who regularly bet, and sometimes lost, tens of millions in a single sitting. Reports say he once dropped $28 million in just 10 minutes at a table. So while his 40 million hot streak was technically the largest ever, it comes with an asterisk. By the time you subtract his famous $1 million tip and factor in the massive losses that came on other nights, Carrie Packer doesn't end up in the very top spot. Still, no one before or since has beaten a Vegas casino quite like Carrie Packer did that night. For a few hours, he wasn't just one of the richest men in the world, he was the luckiest too.
Number 1. $39.7 million at the Excalibur 2003. If there's one story that seems almost too legendary to be real, it's the $39.7 million Megabucks jackpot that hit at the Excalibur Hotel and Casino in March of 2003. To this day, it remains the largest slot machine payout in Las Vegas history. The winner was a 25-year-old software engineer from Los Angeles. He had only been in town a few days, staying on the Strip with friends, and he wasn't what you'd call a high roller. Reports say he had set aside just $100 to gamble, more as a way of soaking up the Vegas atmosphere than chasing fortune. Like so many tourists before him, he decided to drop a few spins on the famous Megabucks machine, and in doing so, stumbled into immortality. The reels aligned, the sirens screamed, and the machine flashed numbers no one thought they'd ever see outside of a dream. $39.7 million. $39,713,982.25. Witnesses said the crowd around him erupted, casino staff swarmed, and for a few moments, the entire Excalibur floor seemed to stop. People craned their necks from table games. Others ran over from across the casino. Everyone knew they were seeing something historic. According to some reports, the young man's first reaction wasn't wild celebration, but total disbelief. He supposedly muttered something like, "That can't be right," before the reality sank in. Imagine being 25 years old and suddenly richer than many celebrities, athletes, and CEOs combined. Unlike some jackpot winners who go public and enjoy their moment in the spotlight, this man chose total anonymity. His name was never released, and he quietly slipped away from Vegas without ever revealing himself to the public. The only details that ever surfaced came through official statements. He was a software engineer, he had been in Vegas just a few days, and he took the winnings as a 25-year annuity, meaning he would receive a portion each year instead of one lump sum. The irony is almost poetic. Excalibur, themed after knights and medieval legends, was the site where a young man essentially pulled the financial equivalent of the sword from the stone. And unlike Arthur, he vanished back into obscurity, never to be seen or heard from again. Even now, more than 2 decades later, that $39.7 million jackpot stands as the single biggest slot win ever recorded in Vegas. A record set by a man who wanted nothing more than to remain in the shadows.
And there you have it, the 5 largest jackpots in Las Vegas history. From anonymous tourists who vanished back into the night to names that are forever etched into casino lore. These stories prove that in Vegas, anything really can happen. Of course, for every massive win, there are thousands who lose it all chasing that same dream. But every now and then, lightning does strike. Which of these jackpots blew your mind the most? And if you had won one of these fortunes, what's the very first thing you'd buy? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Las Vegas Confessions.